Just a quick message. This clip you're about to watch on my Stop Retiring Wrong channel are my words and books and educational events, but they're filtered through AI. But I am real, and my clients and their issues are very real, and my research is not AI. And I want to be very transparent with you as you take advantage of this only psychotherapist curated tool available that intersects fulfillment and finances and reframes the second half of your life into something that truly our parents and our grandparents never could even have imagined. So congratulations.
A retired surgeon stood in his kitchen staring at a coffee mug for almost 10 minutes. For 40 years, people introduced him with respect, doctor. Patients trusted him with their lives. Nurses depended on him. Hospitals needed him. His schedule was packed. His phone never stopped ringing. Then retirement arrived, and suddenly, nobody needed him anymore. No emergency calls. No operating room, no title, just silence. A few months later, he admitted something he was ashamed to say out loud. I don't know who I am without my career. And psychologists have a name for what happened to him. Identity foreclosure. It is one of the most dangerous psychological traps in modern life. The process of committing to an identity before fully exploring who you really are. In simple terms, people become their role instead of developing a complete sense of self, and retirement exposes this problem brutally. If you are watching this from anywhere in the world, comment what job you do below, because by the end of this video, you may realize your career has shaped your identity far more than you ever imagined. Most people think identity foreclosure only happens to teenagers. Psychologist James Marcia originally used the term to describe young people who adopt careers, beliefs, or values without exploring alternatives. The classic example is a child becoming a doctor because their parents expected it, or an athlete dedicating their entire identity to sports without developing anything outside that role. But here is the terrifying part nobody talks about. Millions of adults stay trapped in identity foreclosure for their entire lives. They become the lawyer, the engineer, the teacher, the business owner, the military officer, the manager. Not someone who has a career, but someone who is the career. And at first, society rewards this. Workaholics get praised. Career obsession becomes normal. People sacrifice hobbies, friendships, health, and even family relationships for professional success. The world tells them, this is who you are, so they believe it. But then, retirement happens. And suddenly, the identity collapses. One study on retirement transitions found that many retirees experience identity discontinuity after leaving work because the structure and recognition tied to their profession disappears. That loss can feel devastating. Because the job was never just income. It became purpose, status, routine, social connection, self-worth, and proof of value. Without it, many retirees feel emotionally invisible. One former executive admitted retirement felt like attending your own funeral while still alive. And honestly, that may sound dramatic. But for many people, it is psychologically accurate. Because careers give people something dangerously addictive. Importance. Think about it. For decades, someone asks, what do you do? And your answer becomes your identity. I'm a doctor. I'm a pilot. I'm a teacher. I'm a CEO. The career slowly consumes the person underneath it. And the longer someone stays inside that identity, the harder it becomes to separate themselves from it. That decision would already be enough to create emotional damage later in life. But what happens next makes it even worse. Many people never actually choose their identity consciously. They inherit it. Researchers describe identity foreclosure as high commitment with low exploration. In other words, people commit deeply to a role without ever fully exploring alternatives. Some follow family expectations. Others chase money. Some simply continue down the safest path available. And because society constantly rewards career success, they never stop to ask one terrifying question. If my job disappeared tomorrow, who would I still be? Retirement forces that question into the open, and many retirees are completely unprepared for the answer. One recent article about retirement identity described former professionals entering what psychologists call the messy middle, a painful period where old identities collapse before new ones form. This transition creates anxiety, loneliness, depression, restlessness, and emotional confusion, not because retirees are weak, but because human beings need identity to psychologically function. Erik Erikson, whose work heavily influenced identity psychology, believed that people constantly seek coherence, a stable sense of who they are in the world. When that stability disappears suddenly, people can feel psychologically lost. And retirement is one of the biggest identity shocks a human being can experience. One retired teacher explained it perfectly online. I wanted to become a teacher when I was 10 years old. I finally left after 15 years and realized I had no idea who I was outside of teaching. Because identity crises are emotional, not financial. One financial publication warned that many people plan retirement mathematically while completely ignoring the psychological transition. That mistake destroys people emotionally. At first, retirement feels exciting, freedom, travel, sleeping late. But after the novelty fades, retirees often experience something unexpected, a loss of relevance. Nobody asks for advice anymore. Nobody depends on them professionally. The praise disappears. The routine vanishes, and suddenly they begin asking terrifying questions. What exactly is my role now? Why do I feel useless? Was my career the only thing special about me? One article about post-retirement identity described executives struggling deeply after losing the status and recognition tied to their jobs, because status is addictive. Many people do not realize how much emotional validation their career provided until it disappears. And that is where identity foreclosure becomes dangerous. If your entire self-worth depends on one role, losing that role can feel like losing yourself. Some constantly talk about their former career. Others refuse to mentally leave work. Some become bitter because society no longer treats them with the same importance. They are mourning more than a job. They are mourning who they believe they were. And honestly, grief is exactly what this is. One discussion about Erikson's theories even linked identity loss with mourning itself. Not only grieving a person, but grieving the version of yourself connected to that role. That realization changes everything. Because retirement is not simply a financial transition, it is an identity death. But there is another side to this story most people never hear. Some retirees go through identity collapse and come out stronger than ever. Why? Because losing the old identity finally gives them permission to discover who they actually are. And this is where the story changes completely. The healthiest retirees eventually stop asking, "What did I used to do?" and start asking, "What kind of person do I want to become now?" That shift is powerful. One retirement philosophy, refirement, encourages people to see retirement not as withdrawal, but reinvention. Some become mentors, artists, travelers, or volunteers. Others reconnect with family or rediscover passions buried for decades. Many become happier because they finally build an identity beyond work. One retired executive said, "For the first time, people valued me for who I was, not my title." The happiest retirees build identities wider than a career, mentor, learner, creator, friend. Experts recommend building these roles before retirement, because when work is only part of who you are, retirement feels like freedom, not loss.